Complaining actually increases your risk of diabetes, heart attack, stroke. There is no benefit, and I'm going to say that again, there is no benefit to complaining.
Hey guys, today our guest is Will Bowen. Will Bowen is #1 international best-selling author, humorous, motivational speaker. Will Bowen is the founder of Complaint Free Movement, which has improved the lives of more than 12 million people worldwide. Will has been featured on Oprah, The Today Show, CBS Sunday Morning, the ABC World News Tonight, 60 Minutes, and Fox News Channel. Also, thousands of newspapers and magazine articles around the world have been written about Will, including People magazine, Newsweek, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. Will Bowen is also the author of 5 books, in which the book A Complaint-Free World, which is my favorite, has been sold more than 4 million copies and translated into more than 30 languages. I'm very happy to invite Will Bowen to the show. Thanks, Will, for coming to the show.
My pleasure. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me, and hello to everybody who's watching us.
Will, if you don't mind, can you share where can people connect with you before we go into the questions?
Sure. Yeah, I would very much like to do that, BNS. Thank you. It's the best way to reach me is to go to the letter A, complaintfreeworld.org. In other words, we want a complaintfreeworld.org. That's the best way to reach me. And of course, as you and I were talking before we went on the air, and I'm sure we'll get into this, our complaint-free bracelets, which I just realized I'm not wearing mine, but they're available. We send those out worldwide. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But a complaintfreeworld.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Will, my first question is, why do people like to complain?
People complain really for one of 5 reasons, BNS, and it's a good thing to help people understand that complaining has more to do with our feeling that we have unmet social needs. Now, if, for example, someone orders one of our complaint-free bracelets, and we say that we send them the emails and tell them that it's shipped and it should be there, and then hypothetically they don't receive it, which can sometimes happen because things do get lost in the mail. If someone reaches out to our customer service line and says, hey, I didn't receive my bracelet, that's not complaining. That is a request for accountability. Businesses, Amazon, I'm not going to speak for them, but Apple, and I'm not going to speak for them, I'll speak for us. Oftentimes, when people reach out to us, we would be tempted to say that person is complaining. Hey, I didn't get my bracelet. That's not a complaint. That's a request for accountability. People complain for one of 5 reasons. And the acronym is GRIPE, gripe, GRIPE. And I tell you what I'll do. I have an ebook that I've written that covers all of this, and I'm going to make it available to only your viewers. So I'll give you, BNS, a link, and you can share it with everybody, but it covers these things. How's that sound?
Sounds awesome.
Good. Well, let me real quick touch on these 5 reasons, okay? People complain to get attention. People simply want to be noticed. We are social creatures, and we want to be noticed. The reason I started the complaint-free movement is not because I was a complaint-free person. I was an extremely high complainer. I complained all the time. And I did it to get attention. I was a middle child in a family where there was a lot of abuse and neglect, and I just bitched to get people to notice me. So people complain to get attention. The R in gripe, GRIPE, stands for remove responsibility. People complain to get other people to let them off the hook. If I want my daughter, who works for me full time, to do something, sometimes she will complain to get off the hook. I will say, hey, honey, I can't do the live webinar tomorrow. Would you do it? She would come up with reasons, all these excuses, not reasons, so that I will remove her from the responsibility of doing the live webinar. The I in gripe stands for inspire envy. We complain to brag. Worldwide, it is considered rude to brag about your good fortune, but to complain about your good fortune is acceptable, For example, the woman I'm dating lives in Miami in a very expensive condo complex. They have their own marina. And there is this one guy who goes around all the time complaining that you can't fit a 50-foot boat in the marina. Now, he only has a 45-foot boat, but he wants to complain about that. So people will say, how big is your boat? And he'll say, well, it's only 45 feet, but I can't. Really? 5 more feet of boat's going to make you happier? No, but you've just complained to inspire my envy. You're bragging. The P in gripe stands for power. And our president is the master of this. He complains for power because people, if they are angry, will support you in far greater numbers than if they are inspired. I want to say that again. People will follow you in far greater numbers if they're pissed off than if they're inspired. I call it enrage and engage. If you can enrage people, you engage them. And it's far easier to engage someone who is angry. Donald Trump is a master of that. And the E in gripe stands for excuse poor performance. That is when you do something and you don't do a good job, you complain about all the circumstances around you, such that you then are no longer held accountable, when in most cases, you are accountable. It was your responsibility. So forgive me, as I know that was a long response to a short question, but people complain for 5 reasons, and that's why.
Thank you, Will, for the clear explanation. Will, my next question is that what are the dangers of complaining?
The dangers of complaining are myriad. I'll start with the fact that people who complain are in almost always subtly or overtly ostracized by other people. The irony of complaining is that we do it to bond socially with other people, to get attention, remove our responsibility. It's all about developing a packaged image of ourselves in other people's minds. The irony is that when we complain, we actually drive people away. One study was done of girls, teenage girls who complain. And these groups of girls were cemented together by the fact that they complained. In other words, all these girls ever did was get together and complain about their classmates, about their teachers, about their parents. They complained, they complained, they complained, they complained, they complained. And what they discovered was most of the girls in the group, if that girl wasn't around, complained about the one who complained the most. So even in groups that are drawn together for complaining, the person who complains the most gets ostracized. So it has a total counter effect to what it is we are ascribing or aspiring to do, number one. And number two, it is so damaging on our bodies. It is so damaging on our relationships. I always say, try and have an argument with somebody without complaining first. Try and have a divorce without complaining. Try and run a political campaign without complaining. You cannot do any of those things. It is an impossibility. You cannot get elected to politics if you're not angry and upset about what is wrong. Now, you want to run that balance of inspiring people to change in a hopeful future, but you've got to piss them off about what's going on already. So what is wrong with complaining? Complaining also, and my book, as you know, goes into this. And my book is available at that website we talked about, acomplaintfreeworld.org. My book goes into complaining raises your blood pressure, makes you more likely to have a stroke, causes you to get fat. Complaining actually increases your risk of diabetes, heart attack, stroke. There is no benefit, and I'm going to say that again, there is no benefit to complaining. You can express what it is you want and get what you want without complaining. And by that I mean that this weekend, my girlfriend and I were together, and we're just getting to know each other. We've been dating a few months and all this kind of stuff. And I realized that she loves to sit around and lie by the pool all weekend. She's happy as a clam if she's a piece of driftwood. I have to get up, exercise, be doing things, building things. And in the past, I would have complained to my friends about this. You know, if only Michelle was more like me. And instead, I chose to have a conversation and say, hey, you know, I realize that you're much more of a laid back person. I'm much more of a get up and do things person. I love laying back with you and lying by the pool. I'm not asking you to get up and go to a yoga class with me. I'm asking you, is it okay if I get up occasionally and go to a yoga class? All of a sudden, we're doing yoga together. We're taking walks together. And none of that involved complaining or how dare you.
Thank you, Will. Will, can you talk more about the 21-day challenge and can you explain the rules of it?
Sure. And I can't believe, usually I'm surrounded by complaint-free purple bracelets, but I encourage people to get one of our complaint-free purple bracelets. The reason I do this is manyfold. Number one, when you're wearing one of our purple bracelets, you'll be surprised how many people will spot it and ask you about it, because this is a worldwide movement. We've had over 13 million people take this challenge. And the other thing is, when you get one of our bracelets, we send them all over the world every week. You get jumpstart videos to get you started on why, basically all the questions, it's like a miniature version of my book, and you get the ebook, which of course we're going to make available. So the 21-day challenge is very simple. We are not mindful of how much we complain. And all we've got to do to change a behavior is to become more mindful of it. It's really just that simple. So the idea is you put a purple bracelet, one of our purple bracelets, on your wrist, and every time you catch yourself complaining, you don't snap it. You take it off your wrist and you move it to the other wrist. Now, your goal is to go 21 days in a row without complaining, because scientists have found that if you do a behavior for 21 days, you will change that behavior. It'll become a habit. And if you don't believe me, move your trash can. That's the best way to test this. And Roger Dawson came up with that. Take your trash can in your office or your home, and for 21 days, you're going to throw trash on the floor until you remember that you moved the trash can. Now, no one goes 21 days in a row the very first try. The bracelet is there to make you mindful of it, so that every time you catch yourself complaining, you start back over on day one. You're on day one, you complain, you go, oops, I complained, you start over. You just simply start over, start over, start over. It takes the average person 4 to 8 months to go 21 days in a row. But I will tell you this, in my Facebook group today, which is facebook.com/Will Bowen, we have had 2 people today complete the 21-day challenge, Trish Parr and Cynthia Benson. So you can do it. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Will, did you see any person who can complete that challenge within the 21 days?
No. No one has ever put the brake. Yes, let me change that. People who are not self-aware and who are lying to themselves have put on the bracelet. I'm being serious about this. People I know personally and have said, I just did it. It was no problem. I never complained. And I'm like, you are totally unaware, you know? A man I used to work for used to say the 11th commandment is thou shalt not lie to yourself. And a lot of people are lying to themselves. So no, it takes 4 to 8 months usually. And the people who make it in 4 to 6 months are usually the people who are in our complaint-free life program and are getting the support of an entire support system, plus me on a daily basis working with them.
Thanks, Will. Will, you said that nitpicking is not good, and you also have an analogy regarding that. Can you explain that?
Well, sure. I don't know if it's analogy quite so much, but we tend to use the term about nitpicking, which I have to say, I'm extremely, everything I'm encouraging you all to stop doing, like complaining and nitpicking, I was so guilty of and so unaware of. And so I've worked so hard, and this challenge has helped me so much. A nit is a lice egg. We don't realize, but a nit is an actual thing. It is the egg of lice. And to pick nits means to literally get down with such a fine tooth comb that we're digging into somebody's hair to get. And my daughter had lice as a child. A lot of kids do. So we went through that several times. We don't want to pick nits in other people. As this woman and I are dating, you see little things about them that's different from you, and you want to go, hey, and that's the worst thing you can do. Instead, go, I appreciate such and such about you, rather than focusing on the little things.
Will, you said that we are all self-made. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Earl Nightingale, who was my mentor, said that we are all self-made, but only the successful will admit it. Yeah, we are all a product. We are a recipe, but we forget that we are a big contributor to that recipe. You know, the abuse and neglect I suffered as a child is what motivated me to change myself and to change the world. But I chose. I made that choice. I made the choice to get up every morning. And I do a live video like this myself every single day, live. And people are welcome to join me on Facebook. But it's a choice that we make. The choices that we make dictate the course of our life. And we can begin to make new choices starting now and therefore create a new life.
Will, you used an analogy of slingshot to describe the life's challenges. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring that up. That was like, we had actually put the book to bed. We had gone through probably 20 edits with 5 copy editors because Random House published this book. And I had this thought, and I was like, oh, I have to share this. And I said, so it was literally like pushing the book back to add this, but it was so important to me. And that is that we have all suffered in our lives. We have all suffered pain. We have all suffered problems. We have all suffered indignities. We have all suffered, and we suffer too by who we are. Ethnically, we suffer by who we are. And I don't deny that there are structures and systems that are trying to hold us back. But in many cases, the things that are holding us back are our own beliefs and our own attitudes. And just like a slingshot, the thing that determines how far the stone goes is how far you pull it back. But the only way to let the stone sail is you got to let go of what has pulled you back. You got to let it go. You can no longer use it as your story. You can no longer, let me tell you why I am this way. It's because this happened to me. No, you've got to write a new story and release what's happened to you so you can soar.
Will, you always reply another day in paradise when people ask you, how are you? How did you start that? What made you to do that?
You know, it's so funny that you bring that up, and I think that I have sort of lapsed in that lately. I've noticed that I always say I'm great, But yeah, another day in paradise. I think the reason I don't say it quite so much, let me see if I can do this. And I hope this is beneficial and not detrimental. If you can see, I truly do live in paradise. I live in Key Largo, Florida, so I live in the tropics. So I think I don't want to inspire envy in people by saying that. However, yes, I do think that affirming that we live in a good place, we are in a good place, that things are okay, that to say another day in paradise. And you're right, as you and I were talking before we began the interview, it always makes people pull up short because most people walk around thinking they're in anything but paradise, you know? Same crap, different day is the attitude most people have. And you know what? The world you see is the world you choose to see. And so if you see paradise, you're in paradise. And I partly think the reason I now get to live in paradise is because for so many years I've said, another day in paradise.
Awesome, Will. Will, how to shut down the complaint factory within us?
You know, really the only way I have found, and the reason I claim the moniker as the world authority on complaining is that I have read every single book I can find on complaining, and I find myself being referenced in half of them. Whether people have contacted me or not, they talk about me. And I've read everything I can get my hands on complaining. And without a doubt, the best way to do it is to take my 21, it's not my 21-day challenge. As you know, Edwin Gaines was the first person to say we should go 21 days in a row without complaining. The problem is we can say all day long, I'm going to go 21 days in a row without complaining. But without our complaint-free bracelet as a tool to make you mindful of it, you won't succeed. And I have never found another system, another idea, anything that does it as well as this, because it's a gentle, constant reminder. Oops, there I go. I complain, start over. Oops, I complain. And that's the key. Make it a game. The people who fail at this are the ones who take it too damn serious. Oh, I complained. I got to move the bracelet. I'm back on day one. I just throw the thing in a drawer. Just make it a game.
Will, you mentioned that we need to look at the plank in our own eye before looking at others. Can you explain that?
Well, I think it was Jesus who said that, really, yeah. And that is, we project out onto other people our hurt and pain rather than realizing it is within us. That's one thing. And this morning in my live daily, my Jumpstart, which I do live, and it's also recorded, so people can go back. On my YouTube channel, there's over 500 videos. So, but I was talking specifically about that. And there is a saying in pop psychology that if you spot it, you got it. Back when I was a big time complainer, back when I was a big time nitpicker, back when I was a big time judgmental person, the thing that really, really, really made me mad was all those judgmental, complaining, and nitpicky people. The thing that upsets us the most in other people tends to be the thing that we are blind to in ourselves and the thing we need to work on most. And I find that that really upsets people when you say that. But you know what? It's true. It's true. So we need to look at the plank in our own eye before picking nits and trying to look at the splinter in someone else's.
Exactly, Will. Will, you have mentioned that when we become a person who holds only the highest and the best, then it will automatically change other people. Can you talk about that?
Sure. We're energetic beings. I was thinking about that this morning. Last night, I went and met someone social distancing at a park. She brought her dog. I brought my dog so we could talk. And after we sat there and we talked for a while, I was done. I was done. She had drained every ounce of positivity out of me that there was. We are energetic beings. And I forget who wrote the book. Oh, and I'm not even going to think of the name of the book right now. But the idea is that in every interaction, we are either adding something to someone's bucket or we are taking someone out of someone's bucket. And I think that we need to realize that we are energetic beings. And as we change, other people are going to be less comfortable being in our positive energy because they want to be in their negative energy. Most negative people are quite comfortable there, thank you very much, and don't try and change their minds because they live in the real world.
Will, how to deal with difficult people?
Difficult people? I'm going to defer to Dale Carnegie here. But before I do that, I want to say that I just turned 60, and never in my life have I ever seen more difficult people, because I've never seen more angry people. And right now in my country, there are people calling out for racial justice, and there are people who are being difficult about that. And right now we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and wearing masks and social distancing will help. And there are people being difficult about that. And so I think that Dale Carnegie would say, number one, agree with them. First and foremost, agree with them. Because in their minds, they're right. But that doesn't mean that you should change what you believe. It simply means acknowledge their right to believe what they believe. And at the same time, don't engage with them. I truly believe that saying of never try and teach a pig to sing, it wastes your time and annoys the pig. I found myself, the woman who was being so negative yesterday, she could see on my face that I was like, and I was doing my best to hide it. And I fell short yesterday. I wish I would have gone back. I thought about that this morning and I journaled about it. If I would have done something different about her being difficult, I would have agreed with her. I would have said, I can totally see how coming from your perspective, you would agree, you would feel that way. And just moved on.
Will, you always say that we have to give responsibility to the people who complain so that they will rectify their mistake. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think that being a complaint cop is not constructive. I think being a role model is constructive. I think telling people that we're taking the complaint-free challenge and doing this is constructive because it lets people know that there's an option. But then we keep our own mouths shut and do our program. We don't sit there and try and engage other people, or certainly don't judge them if they don't participate with us as well.
Will, if something bad happens, many people feel sorry for themselves. You said that it is not a good idea. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm glad you're giving me a chance to rectify that as much as anything. It makes perfect sense when my dog died on July 13th that I cried and that I was sad and that I felt that emotion. And I literally felt that cohesion that he and I had, that symbiosis that was at a cellular level, was somewhat ripped away from me, and I would never have that. Now, to feel sorry for myself that this should not have happened, and that's the difference. This should not have happened. That's feeling sorry for ourselves. And the other thing with feeling sorry for ourselves, and I've noticed this because I'm guilty of this too, is that there is sort of a sweet pain, I call it, a feeling of, I don't know, there's a sweetness in pain that somewhat resonates with us, such that we tend to feel sorry for ourselves to prolong it. But the sweetness wears off and the pain continues. So it's a good idea to do our best to switch it. I know when Jake, my dog, died, I did something about it. I took a morning off from work a couple of days after he died, and looked back and found every picture I had of him. And I produced a professionally done video with transitions and music of how much I loved him. And I just watched it over and over. And I cried. I let it out. But that wasn't feeling sorry for myself. That was feeling sad.
Will, can you explain what is an anger timer?
Oh, yeah. Yes. When we get angry, it's so easy to just keep running it over in our heads, running it over in our heads, running it over in our heads. I had a situation recently. I cannot seem to find a good accountant. I'm just expressing a truism here. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I've gone through 4 accountants in 3 years, and I have a constant experience of sitting down with an accountant, explaining my circumstances, and then them seeming to forget everything I told them when it came time to do my taxes. Well, that same thing happened again this year, and certain things were omitted and forgotten and everything. And it's so easy, our ego inside, we all have one. We all have this little irritated being that never goes away. I call it your angry roommate. And it lives inside of you, and it goes rah, 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 rah. So when the accountant did this, the ego went rah, 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 inside of itself, inside of my head, and I thought to myself, I need to feel this anger. Okay, it's reasonable that I would feel anger after 4 accountants, and especially this new one, sitting down, meeting with me, charging me for the meeting. Actually, I don't think she charged me, and then forgetting everything we talked about. And so setting an anger timer is allowing myself to feel the anger. It's picking up my phone and saying, okay, I'm going to feel anger. And I literally got to stop work and sit down and feel it. Feel it in my body. Where is it? What does anger feel like? Where is it? And feel like it. And set a timer for 10 minutes and say, I'm going to feel anger for 10 minutes. And when it's done, but I'm going to feel it. I'm really going to feel it. And reminding myself, when I'm sitting there going, wait, you're supposed to be feeling angry right now, Will. Come on. And it just shows how anger is a choice and how ephemeral it is and how we continue it with our thoughts. And if we give ourselves permission to feel it rather than eschewing it, rather than pushing it away, we can work through it faster and easier and find a new accountant.
Thank you, Will. Will, now we have questions from subscribers.
Sounds great.
Pat is asking how to disagree with people without complaining.
Oh, I am so glad, Patty. Bless you. You are wonderful. That is a great question because I literally just did my daily video that I do is called the Jumpstart because I want to jumpstart your day, And I did one just the other day on that because we can disagree without arguing, all right? Now, complaining is arguing because I can disagree with you, all right? You can feel strongly, like right now in the United States, there are people who feel like we need to keep everybody at home because we are still having 1,000 people a day die. We need to stay at home. There are other people who are saying more than 1,000 people a day are going to die if we keep the economy closed down. So we've got to open up. It's just a reality and we have to deal with it. Now, I can believe one or the other of those, and I can disagree with you. My best friend feels the opposite of what I do, and yet he is still my best friend. You know why? Because I never complain to him. And I never complain about him because I'm not going to escalate it to an argument. An argument is when I try and make you agree with me. Disagree means we're not in agreement. Argument means I'm going to complain to and about you until I get you to agree with me. So go back to what we talked about before, and that is agree with the person. And if you can't agree with them, agree with their right to believe what they believe, and just don't engage.
Thank you, Will. James is asking how to deal with people who are taking advantage of me.
How to deal with people who are taking advantage of you. Great question, James. Wayne Dyer, who I love to quote my mentors, Wayne Dyer, Earl Nightingale. I'm so blessed by those people. And to now do what they have done, it still blows me away. Anyway, Wayne Dyer said that you get treated in life the way you teach people to treat you. Now, I possibly just upset you, James, by telling you that, but I'm going to get in your face a little bit and say that you are a partner in how people are treating you. If people are not treating you well, you need to figure out how to get them to do that. And it's not necessarily standing up and saying, "Stop treating me that way." It is figuring out how to present yourself as a person who would not be treated that way. How would a person who would not be treated that way carry themselves, act in these people's presence? How would that person be? And at the same time, I always add this in, be pleasant about it. Be nice about it. You can do it. Seek the ways and make it happen. And I believe in you, James. We can all change.
Thank you, Will. Alex is asking what to say when people complain.
I'm laughing because if I say her name too many times, my Alexa is going to respond in the background. So Alexis, thank you very much for your question. I want to make sure it doesn't go off. Anyway, what do you say to people who complain to you? That's a very good question. It depends on the situation. If they're complaining to you about something having to do with you, try your best to take it in and not be defensive about it and not respond by complaining about them, because then that's an argument. That's a fight. Another thing is you can simply disengage. The best thing I find is to ask people, what's going well? If you've got a person who is just being a chronic complainer, and I use what's going well as sort of a blanket catch-all. So let me be specific. Someone's complaining about their kids. Well, what's going well with your kids? What are you proud about with your kids? What do you love about your kids? I remember that your son got a straight A's last year. That must make you proud. That person, by the way, is going to go, yeah, but. The thing is, you might want to use your butt too. All right, stick your butt in there. But your son is really smart, but you have a job, but the weather was beautiful yesterday, but is an erasure word. So try using but. If you want to try and derail a person, what is going well is good, but is another good word.
Will, thank you for that. Generally, I ask my guests to issue a 7-day challenge, but now I am asking you to issue a 21-day challenge to our subscribers.
Absolutely. Make the attempt to go 21 days in a row without complaining. That doesn't mean mark the calendar now and hopefully in 21 days you will have made it. That means that sometime between Christmas and next spring, you might make it. But the point is, it's the catching yourself. Complaining is like bad breath. Okay? You notice it when it comes out of somebody else's mouth, but you don't notice it when it comes out of your own. And the complaint-free challenge is about moving that bracelet over and over every time you complain and go up, back on day one. My catchphrase is no shame in day one. No shame in day one. In my complaint-free life group, which anyone can join, but you pay for it. It's $19 a month. But anyone can join. Every day, these people post a picture of what day they're on, day 1, day 7, and they'll post pictures with their dogs. And there's one guy who owns a place that makes chocolate, and he spells out what day he's in chocolate. Giving yourself permission to just start over, and to realize to change a deeply ingrained habit is going to take a while, but that time is going to pass anyway. And I'm here to support you. We are here to support you. When you take this challenge, I realize that so many people, we've had 13 million people take this challenge now. And most of them don't make it. Most of them don't make it. That's why I created I have a workbook that people get. I have an ebook. I have videos, and all of this is included when you take the 21-day challenge. So we are here. We want you to succeed because the world would be so much better. Your world would be better, but our world would be better if fewer people just mindlessly bitched and griped about stuff. You know, Maya Angelou said to me that complaining lets a bully know there's a victim in the neighborhood. James asked earlier, how do you get people to treat you differently? You are letting the world know that you are a victim when you complain. So take this 21-day challenge. Join our community around the world.
Will, thanks for issuing that challenge. I want to ask you a question that what qualifies as a complaint when doing this challenge?
Very good. Number one, if you're doing the challenge and you think you're complaining, just switch the bracelet and start over because you probably are. The dictionary defines complain as to express grief, pain, or discontent. Okay? So let me just put it this way. If you're expressing, speaking discontent, you're probably complaining. But more than that, it has to do with your energy behind it. I'm going to give you a quick example. All right, I do believe very strongly, as I've said, we are in the midst of a global pandemic. There are more cases being diagnosed in this country than ever before. I wear a mask and I practice social distancing. Yesterday, when I was at the dog park, a man walked up and got right in my face to talk to me. No mask, no nothing, just got right in my face to talk to me. Now, my question is to you, was I complaining just now when I told you that? But before you answer, let me tell you again. As I mentioned, I believe in social distancing and mask wearing. And then when I was at the park yesterday, of course, some idiot gets right up in my face who doesn't understand we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I was saying the same thing, but in the second case, it was all about how dare this happen to me. And complaining almost always has a how dare this happen to me. So if you're feeling like you're being slighted, like you're being singled out for treatment that you don't deserve, and you're talking about it with a how dare this shouldn't happen attitude, you're complaining.
Thank you for explaining that, Will. And my last question is that many people say that change happens when people start complaining. What do you say to such people?
No, change happens when people begin to observe what is in need of changing and to inspire other people and to point it out to people. That's not complaining. To inform other people about this. The protests that are going on right now in this country are not complaints. As a educated, upper middle class, tall, white man, I have no idea what it's like as a person of color. And I think that is the most honest, least racist thing I can say. So I totally honor and acknowledge and see the position that people are in. When I get pulled over, which I did 2 days ago driving, I don't worry. I've never been asked to get out of a car. Well, once. But I don't worry. That experience needs to change. And the change begins when we inform other people by making them aware. When we complain, we don't change other people. I actually did a jump start about this. You don't change people by pissing them off, and complaining pisses people off. You might inspire them to follow you, but you need that compelling vision. Remember, I talked about that earlier. A politician needs a cause, but they also need a compelling vision. Just getting me angry about racism is not going to get me to participate. Giving me a compelling idea of saying, well, you realize that people and police officers in New Zealand don't wear firearms? And so people don't feel like they're in the presence of an armed person, so they're calmer, so there are less flare-ups. We can change the world by having a compelling vision. That's what we need.
Thank you, Will. Will, can you once again share where can people connect with you and know about your work?
Sure. The best place, again, I'll send you to is acomplaintfreeworld.org, because most people are going to want to take the Complaint Free Challenge. Now, that's my website. So you can click around it. You can go to the homepage. You can see videos of me speaking live. You can see, I predominantly speak. That's what I do professionally, and that's where I make my money. And so people can see me speaking, they can see interviews, sizzle reels, things like that. So would love to have you check it out. And please join me and BNS. This has been one of the best, most well-prepared interviews I have done. So when it's done, please send me the link and I'm going to share it with my 44,000 Facebook fans, okay? So check me out on Facebook and go to willbowen.com, or excuse me, acomplaintfreeworld.org. That'll lead you there. You'll find me.
Thank you so much, Will. And before we leave the interview, I just want to share to audience how I got benefited from you. Actually, I have a band. After reading your book, I have taken a band and I have started the 21-day challenge. And it's like more than 8 months. And I'm still not able to do that. But it is like reminding me so much that we unconsciously complain all the time. But when we take up this challenge, we get used to that. Like we notice it from now onwards. And this next thing also is that I use your sentence, another day in paradise, whenever people ask me, how are you? And they are so like shocked. And also they will again reply me in the same tone when I ask you, how are you? So I think it really, really changed my life. And I'm very, very grateful to you, Will.
My honor. I am so grateful. Thank you. And thank you for helping us spread the message. That's what it takes. One person like you telling somebody else that we actually can create a complaint-free world where we ask for what we want rather than griping about what we don't have.
Thank you, Will, once again for coming to the show.
My honor. Take care.
Thank you.
Subscribe to BNS Goku Great.